Welcome to Poetry in a Prius, episode 20. I want to title this episode The Warrior. I noticed on Facebook this week that 3 years ago my friend Dan died. Good friend died way too soon. I'm going to read the post I put on Facebook 3 years ago so you know a little bit about Dan, and I'm going to read you the poem I wrote about him. In 1995, I moved to San Jose, California for a new job. I was single and no friends here. One of the friends I latched onto was Dan. He was friendly, passionate, and a love for many things that I love. He had a palate for food and music that was beyond what I could ever imagine. One of my own loves is to be around people when they're around things that they are passionate about. I had this opportunity to do this with Dan. We went to a Page and Plant concert, the remnants of Led Zeppelin, at the Concord Arena. On the way up there, we had great conversation that made the trip pass all too quickly. On the way home, Dan and I talked about the concert we had seen together. He saw and heard things that I had missed, and he also talked about the difference between the performances that we saw that night and the Page and Plant performance he went to the night before at a different venue. Then in 1999, I met the love of my life. In 2000, I got married. Dan and I didn't see much of each other after that. It wasn't until the last 2 or 3 years that we started running each other in stores. Each time we would see each other, it was as if we just saw each other the day before. I saw the love he had for his family and the joy he had when he was around them. This past Monday, I was scrolling through Facebook. I came across a post from Wendy, his sister. Could not believe it. Said her brother Dan had died. Kept going back and checking to make sure it was not a cruel joke. I did not want to be so. So I kept seeing Dan everywhere I went, only to be disappointed that it wasn't him. I was hoping to become comfortably numb over the death, but have not. Saturday, I was able to attend his funeral and hear the wonderful tributes paid to Dan by both the speakers and those who attended. I felt the love of those who had attended and even those who did not come for our friend Dan. Being a person who writes poems, you might even call me a poet, I knew how to write something for Dan, but did not want to do so right away, so I left my notebook in the car when I came home from the funeral that Saturday. And I could have excuse just to veg out in front of the TV. That night, I went to a poetry reading. I wrote a skeleton of the now finished poem. Today, or now yesterday, since it was the wee hours of Monday morning, I could not get started until I put my son to bed, locked myself in my room, put Spotify on progressive rock station. Dan enjoyed progressive rock. One of the statements at the funeral reminded me of a previous poem that I wrote. The last stanza of that pertains to what was said at his funeral is this: sorrow is to be expected if you have felt joy. For sorrow is not the opposite of joy, but the remembrance of joy. Now my poem, The Warrior, dedicated to my friend Dan. The 13th Viking warrior, born in a fiery meteor, in the land of ice and snow, from the midnight sun where the hot springs flow, this demigod carried his hot passion, his never-ending race, as he traveled through both time and space. Feeling the beat call his name, he would, just for fun or for the game, create new worlds and taught others to do the same. He loved to sit with elders, as they talked for days, waiting for all to be revealed, or hold salons through the night to the first specks of light. Then jump in his 18-wheeled war wagon with Hoshi, his sword-wielding princess by his side, he'd conquer whatever space he invaded, whether it was a small land of Sophia or the great kingdom of Kuzokagon. This modern-day warrior with a mean stride and a mean pride was guided in his epic journey by 3 shining stars. Because he looked towards them, they shone brighter than Mars. Then he saw the eagle in the sky and heard the ancestors cry, and from the great hall, the source of all that was right, the source of warmth and light. Then the warrior died to allow his second birth. 3 stars fell to earth, and because there's no end to matter, there's no end to might, there's no end to spirit, there's no end to light. The warrior light shines on like a crazy diamond. He's still there to protect and direct those now earthly stars, even if it is from afar. Those of us whose hearts are destroyed and feel like they'll never beat the same, know we better stop and rebuild all our ruins, for peace, love, and trust can win the day in spite of all we're losing. Then one day we might meet the warrior again, and he'll hold us close in victory. Miss you, my buddy Dan. Love you. Peace to you. Peace to your family here on earth.